It is time for our weekly Mayor's Chat. We're going to check in with St Catharines Mayor Walter Sendzik, who looks much better. We missed you last week. You had a touch of the BA2 variant, I hear.
Yes, I did. It was like everybody else. It hits you, it knocks you down, and different symptoms. But it really does show. When people talk about the prevalence of COVID in the community, it takes you out of commission for 5 to 7 to 10 days. And so just think of that from an employee standpoint, whether you're working in the hospitality industry or you're working in manufacturing or in the offices. Those 5 to 7 days, you multiply that by the number of people, and that's where you start to see a lot of the shortages in employment and
supply chain.
That's what I experienced.
Yeah, for sure. How's the city doing with employees?
Well, again, what you're seeing is a lot of people are off right now. You saw yesterday that the Niagara Health System has brought in restrictions for visitors. And again, that's their way of trying to control the movement of this virus. And so in terms of what we're seeing is this is definitely a sixth wave, and it's going to have an impact on things like supply chains. It's going to have an impact on your service when you go to, whether it be a grocery store or where you're going to another place in the community. It's because people aren't feeling well, and like they should, if you're not feeling well, you stay home. And that's the way that we have to break this transmission that we're currently facing.
Absolutely. Let's shift to Ukraine. And St. Catharines has been so generous, and particularly through the amazing work of St. John Ukrainian Catholic Church. And the defense minister actually visited to update Ottawa's efforts on helping Ukraine. But the first families are arriving in Niagara. Is St. Catharines ready to take in plenty more refugees?
We're ready, and the key for this is the short-term accommodation is available, and you've got so many different people in our community, many with Ukrainian backgrounds, but even more so, you've got a lot of people who are working to bring these families in, but it's also the long-term cost, and it's also the long-term accommodation. A lot of these families will be positioned with people in their own homes, or there will be short-term accommodations that will be made available, but the longer they're in the community, they're going to need accommodations. And that's where the federal government really has to step up in terms of providing the financial support to be able to have these refugees who are escaping a war-torn country to be able to live in our community and not have to worry about where is the next rent payment going to come from, or how do they continue to afford the accommodation. So there's a complexity here, Bob, that we have to be aware of. And a lot of these folks coming in are going to be suffering from PTSD. And so coming from a war-torn area, there's going to be a lot of supports that are going to be required. So I'm more than happy that we're welcoming the families, but we got to make sure that we're providing all the supports for them.
And have you had the opportunity to express that at the federal level?
I've talked to our MP Chris Biddle and MP Vance Badaway. They're very supportive of this. I've also talked to the Ukrainian Congress here in Niagara, and Irene Newton. She was the one who brought it up and said, look, we need the long-term supports, not just the short-term what the volunteers are providing, but the governments have to come in and say, we're going to provide the long-term support until Russia is out of Ukraine and these refugees feel safe enough to go back to their communities.
Okay, let's get to a couple of big city business items. Parking fees. There's a charge for parking fees at Lakeside and at Sunset Beach. This is to pay for the pilot digital program.
Yeah, so we have currently in place non-residents. There is an hourly parking fee that you would pay to come to Sunset and Lakeside. And so what we've done in terms of the residents here, last year we had a free service in which you were mailed out a free pass. This year we've gone digital. So in doing that, there's a fee for getting the digital pass. And it's really an easy process, but we had to put a fee to it because of the cost of going to a digital. It's paperless. We simply use your license plate as the validation, so you don't have to fumble around with a pass in your glove compartment. And it really makes it very simple for folks. It's a $15 fee, but this fee is really just to capture the cost of going digital. And so we're hoping people take this up. Last year, 14,000 households got this pass. We're hoping that the folks who are looking to use our beaches do the same thing, and we're looking for a lot of folks enjoying the beaches, because this is just for the parking.
Right.
To use the beach, Bob, it's free to use the beach.
Yeah. The Land Tribunal, there's been a development there. The appeal has dismissed the appeal against the St. Catharines official plan. So what does this mean for infrastructure?
So this means that there was a long-term care facility that had been left in limbo for better part of the last year and a half, and that's in the West End by our St Catharines Hospital. That unlocks that land and allows for that development to go forward. In addition, the Ontario Street former GM site was caught in this as well. This unlocks that land so the developer can start to work towards redeveloping that land for mixed-use residential. So this hearing at the Ontario level was holding up these two significant projects. And now that the Ontario Land Tribunal has made a decision on our employment land strategy and says, yes, they gave us the green light to move forward, it unlocks those properties. And you're going to start to see some significant development in West St. Catharines and start to see what the future of the GM site is going to look like.
And I bet those developers are chomping at the bit, so we'll probably see some action pretty soon.
Yes, that's what we're hoping for. And everybody knows long-term care is important, but we also need more accommodations in our community. This unlocks those lands.
We got to go, but we'll chat again next week. Good to see you. Glad you're feeling better. St. Catharines Mayor Walter Sendzik.
Happy Easter, Bob. If I had my bunnies, I would put them on and I'd say Happy Easter.